I love revisiting this Michael Moore riff from 2016. 2016. Like a broken clock, Michael Moore is right. Well, he's not right twice a day. He's right once every decade. How about that? I don't know what that compares to. Category unto himself. But Michael Moore understood Trump's appeal in 2016, even if his brethren on the left didn't. And as we have said countless times, the only thing that's changed in the intervening 8 years is the people who play by the rules are getting it harder in the shorts from the political ruling class than they were in 2016, as we were just talking about with Steve Moore in the latest student loan forgiveness gambit. Forgiveness meaning I forgive you and I'm going to force this guy to pay for my forgiveness.
Right.
Michael Moore back in 2016, just to refresh recollections, an instant classic. And this was at a town hall in Michigan.
Every beaten down, nameless, forgotten working stiff who used to be part of what was called the middle class loves Trump. He is the human Molotov cocktail that they've been waiting for. The human hand grenade that they can legally throw into the system that stole their lives from them. And on November 8th, Election Day, although they lost their jobs, although they've been foreclosed on by the bank, next came the divorce, and now the wife and kids are gone, the car's been repoed, they haven't had a real vacation in years, they're stuck with the shitty Obamacare bronze plan where you can't even get a Percocet. They've essentially lost everything they had, except one thing. The one thing that doesn't cost them a cent and is guaranteed to them by the American Constitution, the right to vote.
Yeah, although
I just got the chills again.
although they've certainly tried to take away the right to vote effectively, haven't they?
Oh, yeah.
Between the mail-in election in 2020 and the
Drop boxes.
well, all the things that happened in 2020, and then in advance of 2024, allowing 7, 10, 12 million people to come to this country, even as you have movements afoot in urban centers to allow people in this country legally, non-citizens, to vote in local elections. Gee, what's the mind's eye on that program? For more on this, we're pleased to be joined again by Batya UngarSargon. She's the opinion editor at Newsweek. She's the author of a new book, Second Class: How the Elites Betrayed America's Working Men and Women. It's a story that's just becoming more and more pronounced as with each passing day, isn't it? Batya, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I was just remembering the first time you guys had me on for my first book 2 years ago, and I'm so grateful to you for all of the support. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Oh, our pleasure. So, I mean, as you think about, I mean, it certainly did in advance of this book that you penned. As you think about the last 8 years, I mean, what's your characterization of where the American people were in 2016 versus, where they are today, both in terms of, particular segments as well as the divide between those particular segments?
Yeah, it's a great question. I had not heard that Michael Moore quote. I was shocked. I'm like, he got it? Like, he knew this? It's so random. You're right. It's like a broken clock, because I hadn't heard that, and it is so accurate. People really feel that things have gotten worse and worse and worse for them. Working class Americans are keenly aware of the fact that in their parents' generation, you could be a trucker or a janitor or a nurse's aide or what have you, and still be able to buy a home, cover all your bills, and retire in dignity. And that American dream has become increasingly out of reach for working class Americans, and it's totally been turbocharged over the last 4 years under President Biden. I mean, people really can't afford groceries at this point. They're standing in the line at the grocery store and putting items back because they can't afford them. What an indictment for the richest country on earth.
Well, we also have this problem of sort of general ignorance, and I suppose this is why the soak the rich line of rhetorical attack continues to work. But there's a poll out about, since we're on the cusp of tax day here next week, a third of Democrats think the top 1% pay only 1% of total income taxes, as opposed to what they actually pay, which is approaching a majority. I think it's at 46%. So they're off by a factor of 46, which is pretty good for Democrats. But still, it speaks to why you keep hearing the same thing we've been hearing our entire life from the left, and why they keep saying it. It's working.
And can I tell you something so ironic? First of all, I bet that the third of Democrats who believe that are the over-credentialed college elites. Like, it's probably the most educated who have gone to college who believe that nonsense. But then when it comes to Trump's tax cuts, suddenly all they care about is the total amount that was cut, right? So they don't tell you that the middle class and the working class got the highest percentage of tax cuts under Trump. They only tell you that the rich got all of these tax cuts, right? Because they're complete hypocrites. You're totally right. And the way that the leftist elites look down on the working class and sneer at them and call them racist, and it's a threat to democracy if they vote for the candidate they think is most likely to help them. I mean, that is the most salient feature of American public life, and it's why I wrote my book, Second Class. I traveled the country interviewing working-class Americans from all races, all backgrounds, all religions, all political persuasions. And what I found will not be surprising to your listeners, I'm sure many of whom are working class, it's that there's a lot more unity in the working class than there is division. I mean, polarization is just a totally elite phenomenon because the elites make money and get power off of trying to convince us to hate our fellow Americans.
Well, when you interviewed these people, where did you go to find the second-class citizens of America?
I went all over. I went to California. I went to Ohio. I went to Denver. I spoke to people in Alaska, West Virginia, obviously the whole New York metro area, Houston, Florida. I really traversed the country. I spoke to about 100 people, and then I culled down to the 20 who I felt were both the most charismatic and interesting, but also the most representative. And I profiled them in Second Class, and then I asked them what policies would help you most. And I spoke to experts, and then I took the experts' policy proposals back to the working class people and said, do you like this idea? Do you like that idea? And came down to the 6 or 7 nonpartisan, totally nonpartisan, easy to implement policy proposals we could do tomorrow as a country that would increase exponentially the number of working class Americans who had access to the American dream.
How many people said student loan forgiveness?
Yeah.
Most
no, I
of
mean,
them?
what was surprising
top
was
priority?
the Democrats and the Republicans were like pretty much in total agreement about what policies would help them. Isn't that surprising?
Well, give us an example or two.
Yeah, what's that?
All right. So top of mind, vocational training, which was defunded under President Obama. Really important to people. We have a massive dearth of skilled tradesfolk in this country, and vocational training in high schools, instead of telling everyone who doesn't go to college is a loser, which is like the Democrats' position, because obviously going to college makes you a Democrat, right? So vocational training in schools, getting rid of zoning laws that protect the properties of rich liberals, where they don't allow duplexes to be built in their neighborhoods. We could build 1 million homes a year and solve the housing crisis in 10 years if we did that. Other things that were mentioned were getting rid of degree requirements. Immigration was huge. People just want like a total moratorium on immigration, legal and illegal, for the foreseeable future, because they know that it drives down the wages for their jobs. And even, the H-1B visas, why shouldn't Americans be getting those jobs? And then the final thing was healthcare. They really felt like they couldn't afford good healthcare. Premiums are insane. Often healthcare you get through your employment, they have deductibles that are $3,000, which is all of their savings go to every year. So I would say those are sort of the majority of the ideas that were. So if you think about it, right, healthcare and immigration, each party has one piece of the puzzle, but is actively undermining the other piece of it. And it's really, as far as I'm concerned, the first party that gets to that combination is going to have a permanent majority. So, if the Republicans are listening and want, a policy platform, most working class people, they don't like welfare, but they also support, rich people paying more taxes. They are very pro-gay, but very worried about trans. They're sort of somewhere in, they're extreme moderates is how I would characterize them.
Where did they come down in terms of the rank order priority of coverage for gender reassignment surgery? Was that a big issue to the working
I
class?
was so surprised that people were so supportive of the gay people in their lives, including a lot of Christians who I spoke to who had a gay person in their life who they wanted treated with respect, but they were very, very against trans people in sports, trans people in bathrooms, and teachers talking about sex to children. They thought all of that was terrible. I spoke to a gay CNA in Florida who told me that any parent who takes their child to a drag show should be put in prison.
So interesting. So I mean, yeah. So on the cultural front, I mean, right. I mean, it's it's sort of always been the disposition, even when there's disagreement. But we just don't. We're not able to disagree anymore. We have to sort of, demonize and intern and so forth our political enemies. But it's sort of what you're describing is sort of a live and let live philosophy. Like, I mean, you as an adult, you can chart your own course. So, but your rights end at the tip of my nose, and don't compel me to pay for your choices and the consequences that come from your choices. And don't make me and everybody else have to sort of reorder our entire lives to accommodate your choices and the consequences of your choices. Is that sort of a fair summary?
It's 100% accurate. And the best example of this, I think, was most of the women I spoke to, whether they were Democrats or Republicans, told me that they would never, ever get an abortion because it's against their beliefs, but they also were against an abortion ban because they felt that it was not their right to judge their neighbor and her decisions. That is who the American working class is: conservative and deeply tolerant.
Do they generally agree with me that angry white leftist females in the suburbs who went to went to exclusive colleges and whose husband makes 6 or 7 figures are the worst people in the world, and we need to do something about them?
That particular set of concerns didn't come up, Dan.
Yeah. All right. Maybe it's the way you framed it. Maybe I'll tag along next time and plumb the depths of that. Yeah. No, but I mean, part of that is what you're getting. I'm obviously sensationalizing it, but what you do get to in your book in a substantive way is, people that don't live in wealthy enclaves in the leafy suburbs or metropolitan areas. They're a little tired of being patronized and talked down to. Is that something?
Oh, my God. The contempt that the elites have for them, on cable news and the liberal media, the contempt, they feel it keenly, and they've started to return the favor. They really are very aware of the fact that, the people in the knowledge industry created an economy that was an upward transfer of wealth from the middle class. I mean, it was a plunder of the middle class by the leftist elites. And now, instead of acknowledging it, they sneer at the people whose futures they stole. I mean, that is 100%. Working class people are very keenly aware of that and feel resentful about it, although they're all still remain to this day deeply patriotic people. They really believe in this country, and we should really believe in them.
Are you going to stay in touch with the people that you interviewed for your book?
Yeah, of course. I've been going back and forth with them, as the book progressed, and sending them a copy and finding out what they think about it. It's been really, really rewarding and deeply, deeply humbling that they shared their stories with me. I'm forever grateful. A few of them came to my book party. It was really nice.
The book is Second Class: How the Elites Betrayed America's Working Men and Women. The author is Batya Ungar-Sargon. She's the opinion editor at Newsweek. Again, the book Second Class. Batya, thanks so much for joining us, and best of luck with the book. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless you guys.
Thanks. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This